Hello everyone, welcome back to more Ace Attorney. Okay, finish off this episode. Mic check. I think we're good. 2nd of November, 3:38 p.m. I still can't believe what just happened. I said the wrong person. I can't believe what just happened. I know, I inquired with the bailiff after the court session was adjourned. And it seems Mr. Vigil was taken to the hospital to recover. Right. 10 years ago now, Mr. Vigil attempted to commit suicide by jumping out of the window of the prison governor's office. But ever since then, he's completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. Nobody knew his secret, not his family, not even the man himself, but I forced it out into the open. Was it wrong of me to do that? Did I overstep the mark, I wonder? Yes. Bruno! Oh, Iris.
You were miles away. Anyway, I brewed a fresh pot of soothing tea for you.
Oh, thank you.
You and Susie have had an exhausting day so far, haven't you?
Oh. Thank you, Iris. How thoughtful of you. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back into the defendant's antechamber, he disappeared.
Oh, no, I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, I must leave.
I wonder if he's pursuing the mystery of Inspector Gregson's death.
Well, you know what Hurley's always saying, don't you? There are mysteries in this world that should perhaps never be solved. Though the construction of a solution comes only at the expense of the destruction of something else.
What does that mean?
He knows very well that when you open someone else's old wounds, you often open your own too. But he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important to him.
That's so true.
That's what I like about Hurley, after all.
I suppose that's the lot of a great detective in some ways.
So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand.
Oh, do you have time, Iris?
Yes, I finished this month's manuscript at last, with barely a day to spare before the deadline.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story to read in the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes.
You know, I always hide Hurley's violin in the days before I had a deadline.
You do? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible of you.
Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan of action before we continue our investigation.
Yes. Morning trial.
So, how did it go in court this morning?
Well, we still don't know the truth about what really happened, but one thing's increasingly clear. Lord Van Zeeks definitely didn't do it.
Oh, goody!
Yes, that's right. We managed to uncover several new facts as well.
Oh, really?
And there was another development too, Kazuma. Yes, it's quite clear now that Kazuma-sama is not himself. The way he's acting, it's almost as if he's possessed. Hello. I know. I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound the way he was chasing down Mr. Vigil's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going going on in his head, I wonder? I really need to sit down with Kazuma and try to understand what he's going through. The Reaper's innocence. If Gregson was really murdered the day before his body was discovered, then Lord Van Zieks has to be innocent, you see.
What? The day before? Well, that should be easy enough to work out, just by examining the corpse, surely.
Yes, you would expect so, but curiously, no time of death was included in the autopsy report.
That is curious.
There are still unanswered questions about Lord Van Zieks, though, aren't there?
Do you mean...
I mean, what was he doing there on Fresno Street that day in the first place?
Well, according to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Gregson, didn't he?
And it turns out that little room was actually the inspector's secret office.
Ooh, that sounds like it has all the makings of a wonderfully devilish plot.
But then, why was that notice board in there covered in all those particular papers? Papers about cases with a link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about all this.
Oh dear, that sounds more like something horribly devilish.
We must start by looking at Inspector Gregson's movements of late. I never imagined I might have to be investigating an inspector's movements.
Well, according to the entry in his diary, he was carrying out an incognito investigation of the Red-Headed League the day before his death. Oh, you mean he was doing the same as Hurley?
Well, Mr. Sholmes was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be investigating.
I do wish it had been the other way around.
Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the Red-Headed League that day wasn't actually Gregson at all. It was Mr. Vigil, in possession of Gregson's identification.
You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi.
Oh my! Yes, you're absolutely right, Iris. But why would Gregson need an alibi?
It would appear that the inspector had something to do that he wished to keep secret. I don't believe it. I always thought he was just a homeless lover of fish and chips.
But perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar.
I think perhaps we should try to move away from food analogies.
Well, anyway, if Lord Van Zieks felt the need to investigate Gregson...
Yes, I agree. We must try to find out what he knows.
Okay.
Vigil, you say? Isn't that the name of the lady who came to visit Hurley yesterday?
That's right. To ask Mr. Sholmes if he would help her find her missing husband. Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us. Actually, didn't you say that Mr. Vigil had been taken to hospital? Do you know which one?
Ah, it's St. Sinner's.
I'm starting to wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down.
Well, that's amazing, Runo. You found the lady's husband already.
Well, I suppose I have, by accident.
And 10 years ago, while Mr. Vigil was the chief warder at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarceration. No!
So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed.
Sometimes I really don't want to grow up.
There's more. For 10 years after that, while he was ostensibly working as a peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Gregson to be his stand-in, to impersonate the inspector.
To impersonate Gregson? But why?
I have absolutely no idea.
Ginny was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Including you, Bruno.
I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me. That means he has ties to the professor and to Inspector Gregson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Vigil, don't you? Back to St. Sinners then.
Well, I think it's clear what we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows.
Oh, Iris, you're even more enthusiastic than usual today.
If anyone has anything to hide, my special Wilson shooting iron will soon set them straight.
That water pistol?
It's stuck full of a piping hot extra special blood wine.
And I'm quite sure it'll be very effective. I'd better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still, let's go and see what we can find out.
Yes!
Anything else? No? Alright. Chief Justice. I guess it wouldn't hurt to look at the other places real quick. Oops. Um... 50? No arguments, Prosecutor Asogi. You will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear? Perfectly.
It's Kazuma-sama.
Defying Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down. Yeah, I don't know. On your way now, Asogi. My lord. Kazuma. He left without saying a word. Yes, what are you doing here? Oh, well, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. I wanted Van Zeeks' trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary. Unwelcome inquiries. As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 41 seconds. 42, 43...
Now we must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo.
In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Hello, good sir. Does Prosecutor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zeeks is the Reaper? I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago, in that fateful closed trial, that Lord Van Zeeks made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress. But that's awful. The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days.
Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place of work, I believe.
Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey. And people believe Lord Van Zieks was responsible? He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident. So he must have had a solid alibi then. Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences.
Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial.
And the impact that revelation will have on the British public cannot be understated. Is that why it's a closed trial? Precisely. This country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years. So the last one was the professors, the trial of Genshin Isugi. Correct. Actually, we heard that originally you were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart. And Zieks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later. With the son of the man Van Zieks had condemned now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way. They do say that what goes around comes around. However, it would seem that the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well. Cosma is? I like my organization to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others. Ah, so that's what all these gears are about in here. If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I will be forced to take steps. What do you mean? Not something with which you need concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Okay. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours.
Oh my, that is a long time.
And I hold you entirely responsible. Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes. I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Isugi. Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go. You can find him in his office. Oh, thank you.
Let's go see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo.
Kazuma's my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment. Sir, and Van Zieks is in here, right? Oh, hires.
Lord Van Zieks is reading, look. He doesn't seem like he wants to visit us, does he?
But he must have noticed that we're here, surely. What do you Nipponese want? That's no way to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it? Perhaps not. I apologize. So, what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Lord Van Zieks, speaking earnestly. The fog will lift over London for the first time in months tomorrow.
This does feel very, very strange. I must say, I was impressed. Oh, well, thank you. Not by you, by your fellow Nipponese, your prosecutor friend. Oh, I see. Yes. It's sardonic, don't you think? For a man such as me, so loathing of the Nipponese, to be entirely at the mercy of the two of you. I suppose it's retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years. Played the part? What do you mean by that? You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper, because it helped reduce the amount of serious crime that took place in London. If keeping quiet and playing the part benefits the cause, a cause I myself am committed to pursuing, then why would I choose to say anything? But the henchman of a criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day. And that was just the most recent of many attempts on your life, wasn't it? Someone is clearly profiting from your silence about all this. Someone is using you. Believe me, ever since the Reaper first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose him. Or rather, expose the organization.
It's a whole organization.
It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. No, the Reaper always appears to have very accurate information about the accused in each case, which can only mean that somebody at Scotland Yard is involved.
Someone at... You can't mean...
It's taken me many years, but I finally identified the central figure in this Reaper organization. Tobias Gregson.
No!
Gregson, the Reaper.
What?
So the reason you were investigating Inspector Gregson is because you intended to expose him as the Reaper? As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. It's a highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. But there is no doubt that Gregson was a key member of that organization.
I don't believe it. Are you saying that that he was behind all those awful criminals, meaning that...
Gregson didn't do the dirty work himself.
Oh.
He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the marks and plot their assassinations. In order to do that without arousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi. Which is where Mr. Vigil came in, posing as the inspector. Vigil knows nothing of the Reaper, but the room he rents on Fresno Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. Gregson would have met the assassin there for briefings. So we don't actually know who carried out the killings then. Actually, I do have a name.
You what? Well, if you can name the man, you have the true identity of the Reaper already then.
Or, if I can name the woman...
Oh.
She's a young woman by the name of Assassin.
Wait, what? Shin? Assassin? Miss Assassin?
The true name of a terrifying killer I know only too well. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student and murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then, just when it seemed that diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan and conviction, the mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small summer beach hut. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey.
What? Mr. Naruhodo, this perhaps isn't the place to discuss.
No, of course not. We can't mention it here. The fact that she killed Dr. John H. Wilson. Because Iris doesn't know, and it's very likely that the man was her father.
Assassin. I should let father know at once.
Yes, I agree. Kazuma, isn't it? Kazuma Osogi. You say he's a friend of yours. My best friend. He's the whole reason I got to come to Britain. It was all on his merits. I have nothing but respect for him. Yes, I understand that only the very best students are selected for such opportunities. And I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings earlier today. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminded me of his father, Genshin Asogi, the professor. It's true that the aristocracy at the time was the root of numerous grave societal problems. They were abusing their power, playing with the common man as pawns in politics, in economics, in war. In many ways, Asogi was carving out a canker from society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves. I see. But that's precisely why it makes no sense. Clint Van Zieks was a noble and upstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did that damn Nipponese have to go and take my brother's life? In spite of having once saved mine. He saved your life? How did that happen? What? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. What was to be the professor's final strike had sent a wave of panic through the capital. So Clint Van Zieks had already been killed at this point then. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. Of course, at that point, I had no idea of the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep! You're coming with us! We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Clint was not only from noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. I'd been targeted several times before already. Yeah, it's Van Zieks all right. We've got him. I could hear them murmuring amongst themselves. I knew they were after me. But just when I thought my time had come, if I let them kill you, Clint will never forgive me. It was Asogi's voice, just a whisper in my ear. Bang. After that, I don't remember exactly what happened. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. Two days later, they arrested him. On suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever, the professor.
How awful for you.
All at once, I lost the brother I revered, and the foreign friend I held in such high regard. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zieks. That's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone. Well, thank you for confiding in me.
The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Gregson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are.
I still can't quite believe that Gregson was essentially the Reaper, giving assassination orders to Giselle Brett.
Mr. Naruhodo, let's go and inform my father. I'm sure our government will want to hear about it, this new information. Oh, that means I get to meet your daddy, Susie! Hooray!
Yes, alright. Let's head back to the Great Waterloo Hotel then.
Bye!
Anything? Probably nothing important. Oops. Never mind, this whole thing. Office type issued. Police force and judiciary. I don't think they're gonna add on anything like to the court record or whatever, so this might just be like unnecessary. So maybe I should just leave. Blah blah blah, crime, blah 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 blah. Yeah, just comments about, okay, hospital, prosecutor, office. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it?
Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself.
Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor, Japanese style, in that dark corner.
It's his habit to sit Seiza style whenever he's working.
Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor.
Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama. I'm truly happy for you.
And I'm truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake out the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisioned it, but I suppose that's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Suzato-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jigoku. And about what happened with your father. Then you have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
It's
getting on for a year now, since what happened on the SS Burta. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought maybe that was supposed to be a bizarre series of coincidences. I thought I lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something you have to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port.
It must have been Hong Kong.
Yes, it must have been, presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I had escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course.
Oh, how terrifying for you.
Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose. That's right, and on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now. My formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I'd moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So, how did you end up becoming Lord Van Zeek's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard, and by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play.
Would that have been your knowledge of the law?
Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. Yes, I did. Ever since I first met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. Mark my words, Renosuke. I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday. Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It It was Professor Mikotoba, your father, Susato-san.
Oh my.
Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at Yume. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me.
Oh.
Then, one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life. What did it say? It said that my father had been a masked murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name.
Oh no.
As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. Presumably, the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. I'm so sorry you had to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But somehow, someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem.
But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing?
There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor, and his terrible killing spree.
Well, what did my father have to say about the letter?
I couldn't bring myself to show it to him.
What? Why not?
Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. It couldn't have been easy for him, and he's done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jigoku. To the other visiting student. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way.
Oh, Kazuma-sama.
What we learnt today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along.
What? You mean you knew?
The real question is, who's been giving orders to the inspector? Yes, Barrett Van Zieks is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave.
No, he was merely saying that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame.
Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life.
Kazuma.
On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper.
What the?
It's a scale model of the crime scene.
Oh, yes, I realize that. Does the prosecution office make a model of the scene for every single case?
Apparently so. Sometimes it helps to visualize things better and notice things you hadn't spotted before. Actually, the miniature notice board is my work. Be honest, you enjoyed making that. Bats. You disturbed the bats, did you? Fitting companions of Lord Van Zeek's, wouldn't you say? Actually, I've seen things flying in Lord Strongheart's office too. Doves, I think. Perhaps you have to like birds to attain rank in the judiciary here. Although bats aren't birds, of course. How about a sparrow for you? What's that supposed to mean? Oh, nothing, sorry. Just thinking out loud. Do you know who the man in the portrait is? Why would I? What? But you're Lord Van Zeek's apprentice. Yes, apprentice, not friend. And during the time I was suffering from amnesia, I didn't even notice that picture. How could you not? Oh, really? I mean, it's not the smallest picture. I wouldn't have the first idea what the man decorates his office with. Okay, let me out of here. Or do I show him something? Well, what do you make of this? My person. Okay, so you won't talk to me. Okay, bye. Wait, what if I present your band? Kazuma, this is your armband. Actually, I think it's yours now. Sorry? You're the defense lawyer. You have a talent for it. I've always known that you would. And now, you've chosen to take that path in life. As your friend, I couldn't be happier for you. Or more proud. Kazuma, so keep hold of that. Besides, I'm a prosecutor now. That armband would have no meaning for me. Well, if you're sure, thank you, my friend. Alright. Guess I'll just leave then. yesterday, and I think it again today. This place is so princely. It's a wild guess, but I have a feeling you'll think the same tomorrow, too.
My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving in the tea room here, though, wouldn't you say?
Ah, look who we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure.
Father! Oh, is this your daddy, Susie? How lovely!
What a charming young lady. And you are? Oh no. Ah, really? So you're the author of the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, are you?
That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Susie's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know.
Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly and with much interest.
Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father.
Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explain that bright look in your eyes. You wouldn't be smiling so airily if you knew just how bright she is, believe me. Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to observe in the gallery after I twisted some arms. And I must say, it was a truly exemplary performance. Oh, well, thank you very much. Although I'm fairly sure you omitted by Kazuma on the end there. No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me. Really? You didn't miss a step against Asogi, and we all know how capable he is. Really, to have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary. It's very kind of you to say so, and really nice to hear. What I saw in court today confirmed what I've been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday, Naruhodo, I trust you haven't forgotten. Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you?
But first, we have something to report, Father.
Of course. Shall we take tea while we discuss matters further? I wonder where Judge Jigoku has got to.
Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey?
I've heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was a visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after that case, when the visiting students had already returned home. Lord Van Zeeks, who was in the dock today. That was Beric, the younger brother of Clint Van Zeeks, I believe.
That's right, and he's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you heard. But the truth is, it wasn't him behind all those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else.
I see. So what you're saying is there's been a professional killer at work here. Exactly. Someone by the name of Shin, in fact. Shin. I beg your pardon? Did you say Shin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who was responsible for killing my great friend?
Oh no! A friend of yours was killed! Oh no, Iris!
Professor Mikotoba, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor's talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. And that's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this, anyway.
No, don't talk about it. I just remembered something. Biscuits. This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits.
That was rather out of the blue. She's doing this deliberately.
I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come too, Iris? Oh yes. You just tried to leave me behind.
So that young girl is called Iris Wilson, is she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of all those adventure stories starring the great Detective Sholmes. But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Her father? Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to the Imperial Yume University 4 years ago. But he was murdered last year by Giselle Brett. Why? Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case, but it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not. But I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner. So, it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names after all. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yes.
We're back with that cinnamon biscuits. Woo! Cookies.
Oh, they smell delicious, Iris.
I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here. Don't you, Susie?
Yes, I'm sure you're right, Iris. I haven't seen Judge Jigoku for a while, have you? Guilty! Ha 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 ha. But that guilty still ringing in my ears. No, now you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either. Is he dead? I suppose since the symposium's opening was postponed, he'd have gone to explore the great exhibition.
That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Shigoku having once been in the dock himself.
Ah yes, it was all tied up with that accursed trial. The closed trial of Kazuma's father. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand.
Oh my!
He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire for which he was charged. Oh dear. Although it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was all alright in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together.
Thank goodness.
Yes, talking of Seishiro, I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday. Please.
Oh, what a lovely picture.
It certainly seems to shout we've arrived in Britain.
Thanks.
None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that, did we?
No, that's so true.
What you got there, sir? So you mentioned a favor that you'd like to ask me. Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, it will be over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan.
You want me to do... what? Father, what's the meaning of this?
Now, Susato, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense.
Oh, you mean...
The Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible, really quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London a year yet. I've read all of Susato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs.
So, you'd be leaving then, Runo? But then, what am I supposed to do, Father?
came here to serve as Asogi's judicial assistant. Oh yes, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant. Our government is still in the process of deciding how best to deal with his situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Suzato, and I trust your judgment in this matter also.
Father!
Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. A hope, if I'm honest, but I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it, and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes. Yes, alright.
You won't leave, will you, Runa?
The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Kazuma's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so where does that leave me? Well, if you'll excuse me now, I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asashin.
Of course, Father. Thank you.
I look forward to next month's installment, Miss Wilson.
Oh, good. And please, do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? We'd like to entertain you.
I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruhodo. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home.
You know, Kazuma-sama has always been a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this.
Yes, no doubt. Asashin. Of course, it's so obvious. How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now? Mr. Sholmes.
Hurley, where have you been?
Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question.
I didn't notice you at all.
No matter, no matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes. I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency.
To Japan, you mean?
Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who?
Well, my father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself.
I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bidded fellow.
I don't think what father's sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Shelms.
There's not a moment to lose. Kindly ask your trusty unshaven father to see this is sent.
I will, but what is it?
No questions at this time, if you please, Miss Suzato. All we can do is pray that for once, my deduction is awry. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct, Mr. Shelms? Which isn't exactly... Now then! You may be surprised to learn that I'm a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind settees and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So that's what joining us for tea meant. I leave the sending of this in your hands then, my dear fellows.
Wait a minute, Mr. Shelms. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace.
And left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too.
I must catch up with father at the telegraph office at once. And I'll run and call us a cab. Straight away.
And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Shelms' bill. Okay. Hospital, then? ward where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently. I don't have the thing, right? No, okay. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Ah, the lawyer. Hello again.
Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil?
Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you'd obviously try to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh, Kazuma beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this upon myself. Please, don't think like that. Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well.
You mean about your dismissal?
Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then. I'm sure this is just deserts for 10 years of lies and deceptions, but it wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it. I swear it's true.
Oh, Mr. Vigil.
I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but if possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened? I want to. I need to get all of this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done. Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the raper's marks, yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him. He'd pretend to be an inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf. Oh no, never. A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All he would do was go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here.
So that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident?
Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So, as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence.
And then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters.
Yes. So, you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification and generally being loud. It's what the inspector asked me to do, yes.
Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though.
And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day, so I would report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. It was at midnight on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it?
Or rather, the education itself,
God, I can't.
execution itself must have been used to affect the plan of escape. It's too late for this. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was.
Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception, or rather, one notable loophole, something that was never questioned. I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of the condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Lowgate Cemetery just behind the prison. The chief warder first had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went into the mortuary. The British spelling of some of these words is like throwing me off. I think that's how you spell it, but like, you know, the other kinds of words. Mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. Like mold. Like a cake, mold, whatever. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork having checked the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut.
No!
I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery.
Presumably there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long. So in the early hours following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to set Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder?
I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty are two things. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Obviously, you knew the man then. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it?
It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That meant that this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day. Those 5 members of the aristocracy, I know I'm saying this word weird, but I can't say it any other way. I think it's aristocracy, but I can't say that for some reason. Whose lives were taken. Were you really responsible?
guilty for the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise. Guilty. That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asugi. As I said, it was on the night following his trial after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells, and when I looked into Asugi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah, his last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back.
But why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh?
Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy, but at the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable.
And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed?
That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper.
So, he was prevented from leaving any written record of what had happened to him?
Yes, that was the long and the short of it. I have no idea where he obtained that paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he hid the paper behind his back, and then he pleaded with me. What did you just hide behind your back? Please, please, turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But you know it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet. Alright then, but what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now.
How could a will be a weapon?
So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without trace.
What? What do you mean, it vanished? It would seem that isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will.
I was the only person who saw Asugi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Asugi's execution.
Which was actually an elaborate jailbreak.
The warders gathered up Asugi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see.
To poor Kazuma-sama.
And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects? The will, I mean. That's right. Though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Caden was livid. He was screaming, "It cannot have disappeared completely."
That doesn't quite make sense though, does it?
In what way?
Well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know to look for it?
Oh yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew, but it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was, the Asugi papers. The Asugi papers? I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal, and the way you blocked it all from your memory. I'd forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful. I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife, Evie, will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but... No, not at all. Thank you again.
But what will become of you now?
Well, impersonating police officers of criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. Ah! Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh, yes? What is it? The Sogi papers. I'd be very grateful if you make no mention of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason. It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Isogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder, perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about a document that Kazuma's father left behind,
it would be Mr. Vigil's governor. Then we know precisely where we must go. Back to Barclay Prison.
Well, at least he seems to be on the mend.
You know, his disguise as Mr. Gossip was really quite masterful, wasn't it?
I can't remember anything about it except for the floppy lip.
I imagine not even his wife would have recognized him.
Perhaps, but did he really have to take it quite so far? Yes. Crutches. Ah, look, a pair of crutches. Before we came to Britain, I hadn't realized they were used here as well.
I imagine they were imported in Japan from Great Britain in the first place.
Oh, so no one in all of Japan broke a leg before their arrival. Anyway, the sight of these things doesn't bring back good memories for me.
Oh dear, did you injure yourself once and need to use some?
When I was little, I thought they looked fun, so I borrowed a pair to play with. But then I slipped and sprained my ankle.
I see.
The irony. They contain powerful magic, those wooden staffs. The power to heal and the power to harm.
I think a certain cheeky little boy managed to cause the harm all by himself.
Patient treatment notes. Endlessly obliging. Tendency to jump from windows. Oh no. So that's why he mentioned the window. Bottles. is the same thing. Do I have anything? Hold on. Oh, back again, are you? Yes, hello. I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh? Vigil? Yes, luckily. Well, anywho, the laddie doesn't work here no more, so your case is not to do with Barclay. I would like you to get the wrong idea about that. Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so...
Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chalk.
Why, come on. You can very well. So, how about a wee handcuffed biscuit?
Oh, they really are like little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too.
So, what's brought you down here today? Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, actually. Is that so? We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. I think it's been called the Asogi Papers or something. Did I not say, no sir, Gregson's just has naught to do with things that may have happened at Barclay. Leave the past in the past, laddie. It's not footer about with irrelevant details. His expressions change completely. We're clearly onto something here. That murderer's botched execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, a shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Sid, and my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair.
But Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it.
The rascal would I said otherwise, eh? Or handcuffs.
Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet.
When Mr. Vigil was handed this dismissal notice as a result of what had happened, he was so despairing he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I didn't like to say, but it's just Vigil trying to get you out of it. Do you not think he would have jumped from the shock of the crimes being exposed? I do. You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? Of course, I cannot say in shunning your responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anyone that can what went on at the time now. With Gregson having been murdered and Dr. Sid forbidden for having any visitors. No visitors. Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away.
Well, we're not going home empty-handed.
And I wouldn't have dreamed of sending you packing with nothing. Come on, here, take a handcuff or two.
Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to become a maniac. Maniac?
I suppose if there's anybody who might still in the bird, it would happen back then. It'd be the last from the forensic division, Mariah Gori. Is it Maria or Mariah? Mariah Gori. Mariah Gori. Maria. I'm just gonna say Maria. Maria Gori. Aye, Sid's daughter. She didn't have no more, just the one. But the wee bairn followed in her mam's footsteps. You didn't ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah. The bird woman.
Mama, what is this?
Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama? Dr. Sid's daughter, Maria Gori. We could do with talking to her. Yeah, I was just thinking this. So, she's Dr. Sid's daughter, but her surname is Gori? There's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't ken the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her mum working with the bodies of folk who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I understand it myself.
Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother.
Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right, and the coroner responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her mum's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumour that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby.
Well then, perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago.
I'd say there's a fighting chance, at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. I really need to speak to Miss Gori herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I have no idea about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you not ease up with this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry, I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can you not just stay away now? Leave me alone and then I come back here?
But the papers...
How did you come to ken about that, laddie? There's no many folk, and even here in the prison, who've heard about those papers.
Well, I can't tell Mr. Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament, is that right? The professor's, or rather Genshin Asogi's.
Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy.
Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment?
But then, after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? Hubbers, no. You're off at half cock there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been.
Oh, not what we heard elsewhere.
Let me just have a wee hook around in here. I'm sure I can find it. Hey, here you are. See?
The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush.
Of course I can read a word of those Japanese squiggles, but I mind it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland.
Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Asogi papers?
Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi, no doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. After all the strangeness of that sight of an execution, we sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it.
I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case.
One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, yes?
Those papers are not to be with Gregson's death. Not to do with Gregson's death. I prefer it if you didn't make no mention of them outside the selfish, or rather, I would just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest levels of our government.
I understand. Okay, bye. Okay. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path.
Go to the office. Show him these. No? Okay. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? What's that? Oh, it's just something I was hoping to ask your opinion about, that's all. It's a serious crime for the defense to attempt to extract information from the prosecutor. Prosecution by illegal means. I think we have more of a defense and client relationship now, don't we? Okay, never mind. Okay, you don't care about my picture either. Hotel? No. Chief Justice? No. Shows? If I ask, can I ask him about these papers? No? Where do I go? What am I supposed to interact with? Can't talk to him. And I can't do anything here. I tried this already, right? Right, okay. What about this? No? Alright. Can I show him anything? Reaper. At last, I get to take my revenge. Kazuma. Revenge ceases as possible for your father's death, and he's not the Reaper. He's the defendant and deserving of a fair trial. You mean like the one my father had? It's a closed trial now, too. The conditions are exactly as they were 10 years ago now. 10 years ago. Even if it ruffles some feathers, I have a plan to show that man for what he really is. Kazuma. trialed in it as something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks in the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence in the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too, so I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gory.
If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too.
Of course. The last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. By Barraclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life.
Kazuma-sama. Well, thank you. I'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today.
Ryunosuke, I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Sogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Kuruma is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku War in States period. I came from a long lineage of heroes, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're a chip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Kuruma, is the symbol of the Sogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Kuruma? It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side, which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now, too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zeek's given what happened, but the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated. Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. That man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow, by whatever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you'll do what you have to as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Until tomorrow, then, in the Old Bailey. Forensics. Ooh. Was that light always that bright? Jesus. This place really is creepy, isn't it?
Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected.
But actually, there's a rather pleasing scent of roses in the air.
Well, being a dead room, the coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death.
Iris, do you think we could change the subject? Can I turn off this light, please?
What was that?
Do Do you have a bunny mask on now? Dr. Gory? What were those bunny ear looking things? Your hair?
What?
That noise before.
I was sharpening my tools. I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep a perfectly keen edge on them.
Right.
When pulling the collagen fibers in the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel cuts like cheese. Would you like a demonstration? Oh, yes, please. I'd love to see. Then, I think you'll do nicely.
Huh? No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time. Was that a tut? Well, we came here to ask questions, so... We have actually met before. I'm a lawyer, if you remember.
You're not dead yet.
What?
So Mama said I wasn't to cut you open. She's so strict about things like that.
Well, good. Dr. Sid has some scruples, at least.
Oh dear. It looks like she's not interested in talking to us, for the time being anyway.
For the time being? You mean until we die? I hope that's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen. Show her the report? Dr. Gory, I actually came here to ask you about this.
He was very good.
Good. Sorry?
His skin didn't snag my blade once, and very little mess. His joints dislocated easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with.
We can skip those details. But there's one thing about the report that's caught my attention. You don't seem to have recorded a time of death. You're actually pretty decent, goth-looking. Those eyes, that's not my fault. Oh, that made me jump.
Then please, tell us what happened.
God, she's staring into my soul. So, why doesn't this autopsy report include the victim's time of death, then? It's really the most crucial detail.
I was told not to write it.
What? By whom?
Mail Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He came here.
Lord Strongheart came...
He said that the witness statements, he said that from the witness statements about the gunshot and other evidence, it was obvious. The man clearly died at 5 p.m. on the 1st of November, when the gunshot was heard.
But that's not the time of death you wrote on the report. You didn't write anything. Was there some reason you didn't include it? Dr. Gory, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, then sooner or later, you're going to go to the same way as your mother. Dead.
Give it here, then.
Why's she scribbling so furiously?
There.
You've written...
What? What's she written? Tell us.
Indeterminate.
But...
Huh. What do you mean by that? Why was the time of death indeterminate?
When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh. So the time of death could easily have coincided with when the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy.
What discrepancy?
There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat. And that fish had started to rot.
What?
If the victim liked fried fish, he presumably liked to eat it before it went off.
Well, yes, what are you really trying to say?
It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death.
Manipulate the... Is that even possible to do?
Theoretically, if you were to chill the body in ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. Putrefaction. And if the overcoat was on the body at the time,
Then only the fish would have started to rot.
today's science, it's not yet possible to determine if the body was chilled or not.
But today's science is advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems. But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator.
And I don't imagine many households in London are equipped with such a device. No, definitely not. But maybe in a factory, or some other special places.
I don't recall seeing any factories or such like on Fresno Street, though. I wonder, if the inspector's body had been chilled somehow, what might the actual time of death have been?
I couldn't say for sure. But at the most, it might have been a day earlier.
No. In other words, it would corroborate with your previous deduction, Mr. Naruhodo. That Inspector Gregson was killed the day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Did you inform Lord Strongheart of this possibility?
He simply said that there was no electrical refrigerators of that size in the vicinity.
Oh yes, one other thing. It's something the governor of Barkai Prison told us. He said that your mother, Dr. Sid, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution.
The professor?
Apparently you always enjoyed listening to your mother's stories about her work, so we were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago.
That's not all Mama did.
Sorry?
My Mama carried out the autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks as well.
What? Really? A brother of Lord Van Zeeks, the professor's final victim.
The idea of carrying out an autopsy on a member of the aristocracy is completely unthinkable back then. But the detective in charge of the investigation insisted, and it was miraculously authorized.
That detective being Inspector Gregson, of course. Quite an accomplishment for one man.
That autopsy provided the vital clue needed to arrest the killer. And Ma was there for that historic event.
What does all this mean?
You know, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The professor and Clint Van Zeeks. They both spent their final moments before their burial on that dissection table there. So this lab, Mama's lab, was instrumental in some of the country's most important events.
She really is proud of her mother. I wonder if you tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gory. Can I look up how old she is? 19.
The professor's execution was Mama's first big case. She had to be in attendance at Barclay Prison's execution chamber and sign the certificate to confirm the convict's death. Mama's the best coroner in the world, you know. I was so proud of her.
But the execution didn't actually take place.
No, and worse still, Mama actually helped with the jailbreak. I didn't want to know.
Oh dear, you found out recently, you mean?
I believed in her, in Mama, but now I wonder if I'm starting down the same path as her.
You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? But that's because Lord Strongheart forbade you from including it.
Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too.
Yes, that's my feeling as well.
There's no doubt that there was powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution couldn't have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been in on it as well. The big man with the little handcuffs, according to what he told us, he was tricked by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Of course he said that. I'd say the same thing.
Just who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? You mentioned the autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks.
It was at a time when carrying out autopsies of murder victims was very unusual.
It's still not a practice that's observed in our country even now.
It turned out that he was the professor's final victim, and when the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as the secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr. John H. Wilson. That's right, my daddy! And there was one other person present, the primary assistant. He was a visiting student from the Far East.
Wait, a visiting student? It must have been my father, Eugene Mikitoba. I had no idea Professor Mikitoba had been involved in something so important.
But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor.
So that's how they came to identify Genshin Isogi as the infamous mass murderer. Do you happen to know anything about that piece of evidence? Can you tell us any more?
Would you like to see the records for yourself?
What, would that be alright?
What's the point of keeping records if people can't look at them? They're filed under B at the back of those cupboards, with the other records from the last decade.
Thank you. Let's see. Van Zeeks. That's strange. What, Mr. Naruhodo? They aren't here. There's nothing under Van Zeeks.
There must be.
Perhaps somebody took them away?
No one's allowed to take documents related to the professor case out of this room. But you're right. They're gone.
Well, when was the last time somebody looked at them? Do you remember?
It was... Oh yes, I remember now. It was 2 years ago. A consulting detective came one day, saying that he'd like to see the records.
No, you don't mean...
Herlock Sholmes was his name.
Deep down, I knew that was coming.
Do you think he stole the records?
Oh no, surely not. Iris, that can't be right, can it? Iris?
Bruno. I hope you don't mind, but...
What is it, Iris?
I just remembered something very important I have to do. I'm going to have to leave you now.
This is very sudden, Iris. Well, we'll come with you then.
No, there's no need. You and Bruno can take your time here. Bye for now, then. Good luck. Wait a minute, little girl. Me? I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you?
Have you, Iris?
Yes, 2 years ago, when that detective came. You were with him, weren't you? You were a living specimen then, too.
That's the way it usually works, yes.
Was I? I really don't remember. Anyway, sorry, but I must dash.
Wait, Iris.
I'll brew up a pot of you for you when you get home.
What's the matter with her? She's behaving really strangely all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either.
It's been quite a while since I had any visitors. This was really fun. The next time you come, I'd prefer it if you were ready for dissection.
I can't make any promises, sorry. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint Van Zeek's autopsy have disappeared, but I think we've asked all we can ask now. Does she have, like, very fluffy hair? Like... Jeesh. Bunny ears. Can I turn this off? Let's have a closer look at this. Then again, let's not. At least not while she's armed. Okay, we can't look around, or else she'll kill us. I guess I go back to Sholmes' Sweets? No. Go to see Strongheart then? No. Hotel. No. I don't think there's a reason to go back here. Prison. No. Fresno. Police are still busily investigating here then.
But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she?
Yes, it has been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Perhaps she's out investigating on her own, practicing what her boss taught her.
Well, I expect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait?
Actually... there's something different about this room since the last time we were here, isn't there?
We could always use the time to investigate more thoroughly.
This little trunk wasn't here before, was it?
Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs. There's some initials on the outside, look. TG.
Let's ask one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here.
Oi! What you think you're doing? That's my trunk, that is. Hands off. Gina.
Where were you hiding?
I don't know. You leave something unattended for a few seconds, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got as great as eyes on it.
Just a wild guess, Gina, but...
What? Spit it out, Odo.
Is it fair to say you only own the trunk since this morning's trial?
What are you trying to say? Come on, this trunk goes with me everywhere. Always has. Where have you been the last year?
Try not to incur your wrath, mainly.
You should hear them talking at the yard now. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them bludgers.
You mean the whole Reaper thing?
Yeah. Apparently the boss was investigating stuff that no one else at the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals what got off scot-free.
Yes, the ones prosecuted by Lord Van Zeeks who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction.
Well then obviously, it was that bloomin' Reaper giving the orders, wasn't it?
But why would people be suspecting Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killing?
There was a notebook in his office.
Oh no, this doesn't sound good.
It had details about all the crimes that had been pegged as the Reaper's work.
What?
No,
Did you see it, Gina? Did you see that handbook? Notebook?
They wouldn't flaming let me, because I'm just an apprentice apparently. But it was me who found it, and he was my boss.
That's right.
I was pretty miffed about it, so I sneaked a peek at what was said anyway.
Oh, that's our Gina. So you managed to see what was written in Gregson's secret notebook anyway, did you?
The way I see it, it's my right to read what he wrote.
And what had he written, Gina?
Dates, times, places, names, a whole list of them. All details about the bludgeon supposed to have been done in by the Reaper.
But there could be an explanation for that. Perhaps it was a record of the inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities.
Exactly, that's what I said. That's the first thing you think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognised anyway.
Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known leaders of London's criminal underworld.
Well, yeah, but there was one name right at the end that was a bit odd.
At the end of the list, you mean?
I'm pretty sure the date against it was the 31st of October.
Oh, the day before the inspector was found dead. So, what was the odd name?
It wasn't like a name I've ever seen before. It was something like,
Nah, it's no good.
I can't remember it. I don't think it was an English name, put it that way.
Oh dear, what a pity.
There was something else too. I don't know if it matters, but the same name kept coming up over and over. Shin it was. Don't suppose it means anything, but...
Did you say Shin?
What? It does mean something.
Lord Van Zeeks knew the name too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now, we find out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina?
Well, of course not. I've been busy, ain't I? Investigating and that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened.
The day before, that would be the undercover investigation into the Red-Headed League, then.
Oh, the boss didn't go, did he? He found some code what was pretending to be him, didn't you, Yodo?
Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Street that day, posing as Gregson.
Well, anyway, you ain't the only one turning stuff up. I've got my own ways of getting results. When me and my partner here go get together, there's nothing we can't track down. Oh, little Toby. He's such a faithful friend.
So, have you tracked anything down then?
What you think, eh? Of course we have. Can't tell you though, police business in it. Anyway, the point is, if you lot ever need any help, you know who to turn to, right? Me and the hellhound here.
Right, because he looks oh so hellish honest. Gina, about your hellhound there.
Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's the pride of the boss, he is.
In Japanese, police dog means something quite different and not altogether nice to have those involved in crime. But here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems, for a canine at least. It should be. After all, in the Great Exhibition case the other day, it was Toby here who managed to locate Trevor's workshop.
Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what this super dog can do, eh?
Do we have something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of, I wonder? The paper? The watch? The papers?
Take that!
Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. Bark.
The Chief Inspector said whoop to that, Odo.
Yes, I heard.
I think perhaps that particular item didn't excite him very much. Ain't you got nothing else?
I'll have a think. Okay, let me try again. Unless they want me to go back to the Chief Justice office or something. We're trying to trace Inspector Gray. Okay. His watch.
Take that!
Inspector Toby. He might be a little too keen, don't you think? Oh god. Gina! The Chief Inspector made short work of Gina there. Look what he's gone to.
Oh my, that trunk clearly still has a very strong scent. Of Inspector Gregson.
In other words, it must have belonged to him.
Alright, it's a fair cop, I suppose.
And you know he got away with it too.
You always talk so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what it can achieve. Did it not cross your mind that he might identify something that was right next to us? Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, wasn't it?
That's enough now then, Gina.
Eh?
I think it's time you told us the truth about that trunk.
It won't like that. It just won't.
What are you talking about?
I know what's going through that head of yours, but that ain't what happened.
Alright then, what did happen?
Well, like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby here have a whiff of the boss's overcoat, and as soon as I done that, he went off like a shot. Straight to the sandwich.
To a sandwich? Not to a bag of chips?
Mr. Naruhodo, I believe Gina means the witness.
Oh, I forgot about that sandwich.
Yeah, he had it hidden between them wooden boards of his, the boss's trunk.
You mean when they heard the sound like a gunshot and all piled in here?
Exactly. He nabbed it from the scene. Goodness. Me and the Chief Inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling, and you know what we said?
I thought it might fetch a good price and the chap wouldn't be needing it anymore, so... But that's all I did. Nothing more, nothing less.
But you're adamant Abe the trick about, eh? Stealing the dead boss's stuff to fog.
So Miss Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime then.
How could they? So anyway, that's how it happened. And it's a pretty decent trunk, so I figured I might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh?
Well, maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together.
I think perhaps that trunk should be turned over to the police, don't you? What are you on about? I am the police.
Gina, if you wouldn't mind, could we maybe examine it?
Yeah, alright then. Do what you want with it. Thank you. We shall make a detailed record of our examination of the evidence.
Okay, calm down. Just let me look at this. Scratch. Have you seen this huge gash across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the lead leather and into the metal behind. Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged, whoever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force. Wonder how it happened. Let's have a look inside. Look, there's something inside.
Oh, let's see. There appears to be a passport authorizing him to travel overseas.
Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip. Yes, to Paris. Perhaps the date of departure might tell us something. That was 31st of October, one day before the incident. Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered. Oh, hello. Look at this dark stain here. Do you think...
Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood.
I knew you were going to say that. So that presumably means...
that this was present at the scene where Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes.
I think Gina's been carrying this around with her. Like you didn't know any better. I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips. What's this? Do you see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk there. It's glinting.
It looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. But it's wedged in so tightly I can't remove it.
Well, don't cut yourself. You better leave it, I think. Okay. I guess that's that. Wait. Passport, age, CD, permission for the applicant and one additional person. What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden?
Mr. Naruhodo, be careful. It must be the trunk.
Oh my god.
Toby! Oh, what are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off. Mr. Naruhodo! Mr. Naruhodo! Gina, quickly, hail carriage. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, are you alright?
Miss Susato? Ah, conscious again at last. A blessed relief, my dear fellow. After all, to drop dead after a moderate licking by a small terrier. Most unseemly.
What is or isn't seemly is irrelevant here, Mr. Sholmes. I'm so glad there's no lasting damage. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, thank you. Did you bring me back here? Ah, what's this on my head? A bandage? Sadly, we had no ice, so that's a compress of sugar water. Sugar water?
Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a first aid treatment that my father taught me.
Oh, thank you. So, let us make tea when you're feeling up to it. But of course, no sugar in the patient's cup. The bump on my head is throbbing sweetly enough, don't worry.
Whenever you feel ready, then.
Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sholmes. My dear fellow, think nothing of it. I must say I was quite startled when I heard that you had been attacked by a dog. For a moment, I feared that infamous murderer of so many had come back from the dead. You mean the professor? Fortunately, I see your prized throat is unscathed. That stiff, churned-up collar of yours obviously afforded some welcome protection. Was I that close to death? All I really remember is the dog licking my face over and over and over again. Well, if you wish to avoid such troubles in future, a little mustard spread on the cheeks should do the trick. I should think that would balance the sweetness of your beverage rather splendidly. Okay.
Schwarzbiergebot, brodelnd wie ein Feuerwerk, den Schlund es mir verbrannt, ach Opfen deine Wut.
What on earth is going on in here? Am I having a bad dream?
Ich befahl, hat wie
No, it's an old German folk song. Rather a fine rendition, I think.
Sahnen
That's the least of my concerns.
es brach, o
Iris?
deine Hut. Dem
Iris, what's the matter?
ich gelobt und auf
Iris?
den ersten
Who's that sprawling, that relaxed gentleman over there?
Verriss mich Freude an die
Iris, is she even listening?
Herr mit
Excuse me, sir. I do apologize for troubling you whilst you're singing so merrily, but would you be kind enough to explain the situation?
den Schlund es mir verbrannt, ach
Well, that worked.
wenn deine Wut.
A crooning gentleman and a mute young girl. A rather tantalizing juxtaposition. And one that appears to have incited the gods of deduction within me to find their voices too. Mr. Jones, do you mean... The strings of reasoning within me are playing now as a delightful duet. One melody sings of a reunion full of nostalgia, whilst the other is a morose theme about the great secret you're trying so desperately to conceal, Iris. She's turned as white as a sheet. So as usual, you've instantly seen to the very heart of the matter. And by the time my own brief performance is over, I feel sure this gentleman's song will reach its finale. So then, to Musicland, where all is sweetness and delicacy and harmony. Pray do enjoy Herlock Sholmes' latest logic and reasoning spectacular. Topic 1. Man's identity. Firstly, we consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly he's a German with no grasp of the English language. Guys, it's her dad. As evidenced by the Germanic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when asked to desist. So why is the man here at all and in such apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we need only follow the gaze of those bright young eyes to unravel the particular part of this mystery. The reason for the man's mildly irritating waddling is revealed by the herbal tea. You've obviously offered our German guest a cup of your latest herbal blend. The tea's delectable flavor has made the man's spirits soar, and resulted in this joyful, ditty tumbling unnecessary from his lips. I eagerly await sampling the flavor myself, that I may join the fellow in this state of elation. Now to the next question. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? As it happened a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin needed my services in solving a particular delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived in my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Umsting, the King of Germany. my memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question that mask belongs to the King of Germany. It would appear that His Majesty remembers the fine service I afforded him, and has decided to show his face again, mask and all, in order to express his gratitude. Well-mannered monarch indeed, wouldn't you agree, my dear fellow? So the identity of this masked visitor is in fact my former client, the King of Germany. Indeed, his son is currently in London as well, enjoying the wonders of the Great Exhibition. Topic 2, girls' silence. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence isn't able to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. A £5 note, I believe. I must say, as your compatriot, I am deeply saddened. It would appear that you've allowed yourself to be bribed into silence by His Royal Highness, letting yourself some spending money in exchange for keeping quiet about the King's secret. And now, the final piece of the puzzle. What is this secret you strive to hide with your silence, Iris? Ah, yes, we need only follow that brief, involuntary twitch of your eyes to find the answer. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. My favorite coffee cup, in fact. Or should I say, the handle of my favorite coffee cup. It appears that His High-Spirited Highness broke it in the midst of his hijinks. Which leads us to the sad truth. My favorite coffee cup has been broken by the King of Germany, and Iris, you try to conceal it from me. I shall have a bill sent via governmental channels to the German royal family for its replacement. To hide the coffee cup. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of his painful puzzle.
Dem Schwarzbierchgebot, Modenquin, Feuerwerk.
With your silence as well, the fellow's jovial warbling rather rings in the ears, does it not? Mr. Sholmes, I must say something does rather trouble me. Pray, Miss Susato, do tell. His Royal Highness doesn't appear to have moved a muscle since we arrived. Ah. And you haven't said a word either, Iris.
Don't look at me.
If Mr. Sholmes has it all right, you might as well own up to it now. Your reasoning isn't entirely without substance, I must admit. And one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Yet another grievance, Mr. Naruhodo, surely not. Well, I actually read the story of the case recently, the one you were just describing. And according to that, at least, it wasn't the King of Germany, it was the King of Bohemia. Goodness, was it?
Yes, that's quite true. Master Gotz, the prince, testified to that in court. In his words, I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia.
I would ask you to keep that minor error to yourselves. It could easily become quite a scandal.
I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that it's our turn now to make some corrections to a number of minor errors that may have slipped in.
Yes, even Mr. Sholmes is willing to admit he might be slightly wide of the mark this time. Although it's clear that Iris is definitely hiding something. You need to find out the truth behind this mysterious scene. The one truth is incontrovertible. My favorite coffee cup is no more. So, shall we embark again on a joint presentation of Spectacular? I'm so sick of this song. Please, hurry up. Reason for So what, it's some mix of herbs that gives you the urge to sing? Goodness, I should like to try some. I'd like to hear your singing, but this man... Just how long does he intend to keep up with that tune, do you suppose? As I said, he's been stock still the entire time, and if you look closely, his lips aren't moving either. Ah, so I'm not sure what's actually responsible for the spirited singing, but I suspect the answer lies in the end of Iris's gaze. Excuse me, sir, this is a very awkward angle. I'm just gonna present it. The reason for the gramophone. Indeed, but no well-bred gentleman would break into an obscure folk song and make it a social call. In other words, this gentleman isn't singing at all. In fact, it would appear that the fellow is unconscious. Please turn that the music seems to have stopped now. I ask you, Mr. Naruto. Yes? Why would I have purchased a recording of that gibberish? How should I know? Well, never mind. On with deduction. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the city? Already established that it was actually a king of Bohemia, it seems Mr. Sholmes intends to persist with his Germany theory for some reason. Come to think of it, the young prince was wearing a mask as well, wasn't he? Master Gotts, the boy whom you had in tears. Don't remind me, or anyone else. Do you suppose all members of the aristocracy of mainland Europe wears masks? I'm sure they do. Well, probably anyway. The point is that mask doesn't belong to any king. No, that's right, as we all know. Because we can identify the true owner of this mask. Where is Kazuma? Kazuma, there he is.
Take that!
Yes, there'd be no question that mask belongs to Kazuma Sugi. In other words, your memory is sublimely unreliable. Only you could try to make that sound positive. Kazuma's mask had been languishing on the metal chest for several days, though that doesn't explain why the gentleman is wearing it now. But it is now a simple matter to determine our guest's true identity. After all, the gentleman is unconscious.
Oh my god, it's Usato's father!
We need only excuse ourselves in advance, gently lift the mask, and peer beneath it.
Oh my god! I had no idea!
I don't believe it.
Ah!
Father! This is a Team Rocket moment right here. Whoa, hold up. I'm afraid Mrs. Otter, you must be No, I think not, Mr. Sholmes. And it would appear our logic and reasoning has once again revealed the truth. This mysterious visitor is my unconscious father, Eugene Mikatoba. You killed him, Iris. Logic and reasoning, or just looking insane? He drank the tea, and then she has it in her mouth, and she won't talk because she has the tea in her mouth, and she doesn't want to be unconscious or something, but she can't spit it out for some reason. Her cup broke. The reason for your muteness. So it's a 5-pound note poking out from Iris's knapsack, is it? Oh dear, I can't be sure. Most money that we encounter is in coin form. I know, I'm not even sure if we've seen any banknotes here in Britain at all, have we? But anyway, Father would never have paid money for Iris's silence. He certainly seems like the silent type himself, though, judging by his present state. There must be some other reason for Iris's silence, I suppose. Perhaps what Iris is trying so hard not to give away with her eyes is something entirely different. The tea. The teacup. The tea kettle. Can I... What are my options? I'm assuming it's just this.
Take that!
Yes, the reason of your muteness is concealed inside the metal chest. Next to the conversation, upon closer inspection, there's something different about the chest's appearance. It's kept locked at all times, yet now the catch is open. Evidently, this has something to do with your refusal to speak, Iris. Simple enough matter to incite you to speak, I'm sure. I merely need to open this chest. I'm just gonna spit tea in your face. Here we go.
No! Hurley, don't!
What? Mr. Sholmes!
Mr. Sholmes, Hurley!
He's dead.
Never. Oh, Hurley, I told you not to open it.
So you found your voice now, Iris. In other words, what just happened clearly reveals the truth here. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is... This is somewhat different to the usual dance of deduction you perform with Mr. Sholmes, isn't it? Well, he's left me alone on the ballroom floor, so I'm gonna have to dance this next part solo. And anyway, I need to get to the bottom of this, for my own peace of mind. Now then, Iris isn't usually the silent type, so... You mean you don't actually know the answer yet, despite that knowing point of the finger before? Mrs. Otto, sometimes a man needs to point his finger first and think later. Oh, well, if you say so, I think we'd better examine Iris more closely and try to rescue the situation then. The real reason for your silence is this key.
Take that!
Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is the key behind your back. Mr. Sholmes was thrown into the air before. Oh, she had that in her mouth. Okay, not tea. Just before you called out to try to stop him, you slipped something out of your mouth. That something is the key now in your hands, no doubt the key to the chest.
You're so clever, Bruno.
So now it's become clear. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes' graphic demonstration, we can well imagine what happened here.
But
Professor Mikitoba also opened the metal chest only to be punched into the air. and land sprawled on the city.
But wait, that doesn't explain all the facts. What about the stylish scarf, and the cup of tea, and above all, why would you be wearing Kazuo-sama's mask?
Well, for those curious details, I could think of only one explanation. Clearly an unbelievable miracle took place in this room. Isn't that right, Iris? Consider how the room was arranged before this whole painful experience took place. When Professor Mikotoba opened the chest, completely unaware of what awaited him inside, the mask was flown into air just as he was, only to land neatly on his face when it fell back down. And the teacup's journey through the air ended when it caught on the unconscious professor's finger.
You mean to say that the stylish scarf?
Is actually just a tablecloth. This is the great detective's office, after all, a place of miraculous deductions. How slow are these people? Would you expect anything less?
Yes, you're right. It happened exactly as you said. Brilliant, Reno.
Thus concludes Ryunosuke Naruhodo's great deduction and this punchy puzzle.
So then, why not make a fresh pot of tea for us all?
Objection!
Oh, you're up. An admirable performance, Mr. Naruhodo. But in the final act of the show there, you rather miss everything of importance. Mr. Sholmes, if you would cast your mind back to my earlier deduction. Iris, clearly you're hiding a great secret. She is, from the look on her face. Mr. Sholmes must be right. Whatever the great secret is, the cat isn't out of the bag yet. So I put it to you again. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup.
It really is a shame about Mr. Sholmes' cup.
It must have been smashed when Professor Mikotoba opened the chest.
Oh dear, so many things seem to have been broken here.
But now the deduction has taken a different direction. Iris doesn't seem to be trying to hide the broken cup anymore.
In other words, her great secret is something else.
Let's put our observational skills to work here one final time then. You were attempting to abscond with that... Oh. Look there seem to be more papers there. Is Iris trying to hide them underneath the tray?
An insignia, Mr. Naruhodo. It's official Scotland Yard document.
What? But why would Iris have... We must ask her. An official Scotland Yard document.
Take that!
You were attempting to abscond with the case file. Iris, as you know very well, nothing escapes the attention of a great detective.
Oh no.
We visited Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory earlier today, and Dr. Gorey informed us that the autopsy report of Clint Van Zeeks had gone missing. Clint Van Zeeks. Yes, I do seem to recall that some years ago I asked to see the report in question. You were with me, weren't you, Iris? You mean it was you, Iris? So those papers you have there are...
Sorry. Forgive me.
To hide the case file. In truth, I would like to have thought I could have predicted the booby-trapped chest, but it caught me completely off guard. I was very neatly the late consulting detective Herlock Sholmes.
I'm sorry, Harley.
So you mean this autopsy report really is...
Yes, I took it from the lab, even though I knew it was very important.
Was there something in it that troubled you, Iris?
Not exactly something that troubled me. Something I've been looking for. When I saw this report, when I saw the writing in it, I knew it was Daddy's.
The writing? Your father's writing? What do you really mean? Iris, it must be something that's hard for her to talk about. Forgive me for interrupting, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes, what is it? I feel as though the poor unconscious gentleman on the settee has been somewhat forgotten.
Father!
Perhaps we should find our guest somewhere more peaceful to rest. Mr. Naruto? Yes? Would you be so kind as to lend him your bed? We must do our very best to make him comfortable, I feel. Oh, yes, of course. I'll help you carry him up.
So will I.
No, I can manage alone, thank you. We have tea. You have tea to enjoy. You wouldn't want Iris's brew to stew. Because there's no better way to make the professor comfortable than dragging him upstairs like a trunk. I wonder, perhaps that was deliberate. Maybe Mr. Sholmes is making himself scarce to give Iris a chance to talk more freely.
We must use this opportunity to talk with Iris. And find out what's going on.
Would you like to tell us about it, Iris? About your father?
I'm sure I told you before, didn't I? That Daddy used to be Hurley's partner.
Yes, and the notes about all the cases they solved together are kept inside that metal chest.
That's right, Hurley told me, you see. He said that Daddy's somewhere far away now, so we can't meet.
That's one way of describing it.
Then, when I secretly unlocked the chest and read through the papers inside, I started to build up a picture in my head of what Daddy must be like.
Well, that's only natural. You're just like any other girl of your age.
I read that Daddy was a professor of medical science, so I studied and took my degree too.
Well, that's only natural, I suppose. In that respect, you're not quite like any other girl of your age, though.
But there was one thing that I could never find out. Daddy's name. His name wasn't anywhere on any of the notes that he made about his work with Hurley. But then one day...
That's what happened, is it? When you saw this autopsy report, you finally managed to work it out, is that right?
Yes.
So it was the handwriting in the report that caught our eye.
When I saw the writing on the report, I could hardly believe it. I knew that handwriting, I thought to myself.
Because it was the same as the writing you've seen on your father's case notes.
Exactly. I was desperate to compare the two properly and needed to see them side by side. I asked the doctor in the laboratory, where I was told I couldn't take the report away. And even worse, I was told that was the first and last time he'd be allowed even to look at it there.
So you decided to steal it?
When I compared the autopsy report with the case notes I'd had here, there was no doubt. The handwriting was exactly the same. It was Daddy's.
And the signature of the coroner at the bottom of the autopsy report read Dr. John H. Wilson.
So that's how I finally found out. I learnt Daddy's name at last.
I see.
Ever since then, I call myself Iris Wilson. And that's also when I had the brilliant idea of writing stories all about Daddy's exciting times at Hurley. I decided then and then that I'd write the adventures of Herlock Sholmes.
Oh, Iris, I had no idea the stories had quite such a deep personal significance for you. I can see why the autopsy report was so important to her now. And why she was prepared to break the law to get her hands on it. I must apologize, Iris. This is really all my fault.
Hurley?
I made a promise, you see, that until the time was right, I'd keep the details about your father a secret.
I know. I've been very naughty. I'll take the autopsy report back to Dr. Gorey and apologize, I promise.
Yes, we'll go together, I think.
Then let me look after it for you until we get there.
Okay, Clint, British, 31st of May, between 9 p.m. and midnight. Death from a single stab wound to the heart. Others, a duel. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document. Vital evidence covered from the victim's stomach.
I must go and water my herbs, I think. I'll see you all later.
Poor Iris. She must be feeling awful. I know Mr. Sholmes is here for her, but still.
Ah. What? How? What's the meaning of this, Mr. Sholmes?
Mr. Sholmes? Oh dear me. So, you've noticed, I see.
But that would mean...
What on earth's the matter, Mrs. Otto? You've turned as white as a sheet.
It's this autopsy report, Mr. Naruhodo. The one from 10 years ago. The writing isn't Dr. Wilson's at all.
Huh? What do you mean? How could you possibly know that?
Because I know this writing very well. This writing is my father's.
What? Professor Mikotoba's? Indeed, it's true. And now you know, my dear fellows. No, I don't know anything. What on earth does all this mean, Mr. Sholmes? Because the idea that's slowly forming in my mind, it's just too extraordinary to believe. Please, you have to explain. So, this autopsy report was actually penned by Professor Mikotoba then. But that makes no sense. It's not possible, surely. Not possible, my dear fellow. Pray take a deep breath and think again.
Yes, you're right. In some ways, it actually makes a great deal of sense.
It does?
10 years ago is when Father returned to Japan after his extended study tour in Britain.
And prior to his return, where was Dr. Mikotoba engaged? Ah, of course. He was an assistant in Dr. Wilson's laboratory learning about forensic science. And as an assistant, he would have aided with the dissection work, making the detailed notes, which would be assembled into the full autopsy report. Once the work was complete, the head coroner would check the contents and put a signature on the document.
In other words, the only writing of Dr. Wilson's in the report would be his signature at the end.
I see. So Iris got the rotten end of the stick, you mean? She saw that and assumed the whole report had been written by Dr. John H. Wilson.
Which is very understandable, of course.
What a complicated situation. thinking about it, most of what we know about you, Mr. Sholmes, comes from the published stories of your exploits.
Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, written by Iris.
And we really have no way of knowing what's fact and what's fiction. Most troubling for you, my dear fellow, I'm sure. So what about this supposed partner of yours? Did he really exist or not? Ah, you've come straight to the point, I see.
And please come straight to the answer.
I believe Iris explained it in one of her installments. He was a trusted comrade and the only person I could truly have called a friend.
And did this partner of yours truly make a record of all your cases? Are his notes really stored inside that metal chest?
Absolutely, my dear madam, absolutely. So, where's your partner now? We rarely meet. You see, he lives on the other side of the world. But if this autopsy report and the records of all your cases were penned by the same hand, and if the autopsy report was written, though not signed, by your famous partner, there'd be only one logical conclusion. Pray, impress me. Your partner would have to be Eugen Mikitoba. In other words, Mrs. Otto's father. Upon my word, Mr. Naruto.
Yes?
You are coming along wonderfully. You have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasp the art of deduction.
You mean to say?
Allow me to introduce you to my great friend and partner, Mikitoba. Professor Mikitoba.
Does this mean that you're the real Dr. Wilson?
No, my dear. I'm still my old self, Eugen Mikitoba, your father.
Oh, of course.
This is obviously too much for Suzato-san to take in. I must say, though, how my old friend has attained worldwide celebrity as a celebrity status as a great mystery solver is the greatest mystery of all. I still remember the first time we met. Pray remind me, when was it again, Mikitoba? 16 years ago, Sholmes. Ah, yes, quite 16 years ago. I just arrived in Japan with Seishiro and Genshin. I was in search of lodgings close to the hospital, some comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. The rents are devilishly high in that particular area. That's right, so I decided I needed someone to share lodgings and the expense, and was fortunate enough to be introduced to Sholmes, who found himself in a similar situation. I was a callow fellow back then, a mere shadow of the great detective you see before you now. I was working at the hospital's chemical laboratory at the time, indulging my curiosities for little gain. And the situation of our cohabitation led to us pursuing cases together, you see. Hard to believe, it was a mere 6 years. We had a great many adventures. But in the last year of Mikitoba's stay in Britain, that most infamous of cases presented itself. The case with which you've become rather familiar yourselves, the professor killings. After the trial, Seishiro and I were summoned back home. Hardly surprising, given the circumstances. So there you have it. And as you know, all the details recorded by my trusty chronicler remain in that metal chest. This is just amazing. Professor Mikitoba really is Mr. Sholmes' famous partner.
Father,
Goodness, my dear, what a cutting look.
as your daughter, I'm very proud to learn that you were the great detective's great partner. But nevertheless, there's another mystery that I really must ask you to explain now.
And that is?
You know very well what it is. The unresolved matter of Iris's father.
Of course. I'd almost forgotten about that one. I should have seen this coming, I suppose.
Iris told us that all the notes about the great detective's adventures that are in that metal chest were written by her father. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sholmes?
That is indeed what I told young Iris.
But if you're Mr. Sholmes' partner, father, and you wrote all those case notes, then Iris's father must be you.
Upon my word, Mrs. Otto, you are coming along wonderfully as well. You two have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction. Oh,
What you've always told me, father, is that my mother died when I was born 16 years ago, and you left me in grandmother's care whilst you embarked on your studies tour of Great Britain, and I've always accepted that. But all this about Iris?
there it is. Mrs. Otto sounds ice cold stare. No, now hold on a minute. It was very complicated. I mean, it's really not what you think.
And perhaps you'd like to explain exactly what it is.
There it is. Now the eyes go for ice cold or red hot just before she... No, really, you've got the run and the stick. Show him, say something, man. That's quite enough, my fiery fellows. Mr. Sholmes, when did he get all dressed up? We can't tell the difference. How sad. Well, I don't like to interrupt this exciting exploration of the past. Mikoto and I have an urgent matter that requires a short excursion.
But it's very late, Mr. Sholmes. Where must you go?
Why, my dear madam, is that not obvious? My partner and I must pursue our natural enemies. So get your coat, Mikoto. The game is afoot. But Sholmes, I really must give Cesaro a full explanation, I think. Later, my dear fellow, later. Our carriage awaits downstairs already. You haven't changed one iota, have you? I mean, really. I visit our home after 10 long years, and when I open the chest in a fit of nostalgia, I quite inexplicably pass out. And as if that wasn't enough, when I eventually regain consciousness, I plunge straight into all this.
Father, please. Calm Mr. Sholmes down.
What?
I have no doubt that whatever happened, you were acting in everyone's best interests. I trust you. Completely.
Cesaro.
And sending the great detective and his great partner off on renewed adventures together. It's more than I could have hoped for in my wildest dreams.
Very well then, we'll speak again later. So, I believe your own work is done for the day. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow. Yes, Naruhodo, good luck in battle, and in reaching a decision. A decision about whether to go back to Japan, I suppose.
So much happened that day that I barely knew what to do with myself. It would only be later that I'd come to realize how amidst the chaos I'd unleashed were all the clues I needed to finally unearth the truth. And that all the turmoil was necessary to give me the resolve to see everything through.
Yay! Okay, I'm gonna end it here. That's the end of that episode. The last episode is the resolve of Rinosuke Naruhodo. We'll see. I guess they'll do all the trial and stuff there. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!